Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Now, in this time slot, you were probably expecting to see our live Thanksgiving Q&A for Thanksgiving. However, as you can probably tell from my voice, that was simply not going to happen. Now, the good news is I've never been able to hit notes this low. My darling, I can't get enough of your love. Anyway, so what we're going to do instead is a little highlights package of some of the best bits of the last couple of years of the AMAs, the Ask Me Anything shows here on Studio Live today. So let's jump in to the premiere. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the highlights over the last couple of years of my Ask Me Anything shows here on Studio Live today. If you want to join in to the future live shows, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button if you have some fun. Let's jump on into the clips. Welcome to Studio Live today, where I don't even have my headphones on straight. I don't have studio monitors, but I really want to get my first song released. Is there any way to mix solely with headphones and get a great mix that translate in a car, etc.? What an excellent question. It is one that I get reasonably commonly, which is, can you mix just using headphones? My default stock answer to this is yes, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. But the key thing is to know your headphones. So I've been using the Sennheiser HD280 Pros for about 4 or 5 years. I know them inside and out. I know that if a sound sounds like it does on these, I can almost know exactly how it's going to sound on monitor speakers, car stereo, home theater, Bluetooth speaker, whatever it happens to be. So there's that. And then the other thing about mixing on headphones is you can then check your mix. So you don't have to go, well, I don't have monitor speakers, I can't hear it on speakers. You can actually take your mix, especially if you're doing it on mobiles. That's why I love things like GarageBand, like why I love mobile recording is you can literally plug your iPad or your iPhone into your home stereo, into your car, into your Bluetooth speaker, and you can listen back. And even if you've got a laptop or a desktop, you can export that final WAV file and then you can play it back either from your phone or from a USB stick or whatever. So yes, I think you can. In fact, I wouldn't race in. A lot of people race into getting monitor speakers thinking it's going to just do amazing things to music. It definitely is a benefit to be able to mix on monitors, but I would make sure that you can actually get a high quality recording. I would actually spend your time and your money on microphones, audio interfaces, and practicing just recording a lot of stuff before you spend too much time thinking about monitors. How do I get my vocals to sound as clear as professional quality? A good question. Vocals can be one of the toughest things to get sounding good. Your vocal performance comes down to a few things. The quality of your microphone is one. The quality of your audio interface is another. So how quiet the preamp is on your audio interface, and your background and your surroundings. So how quiet is the environment that you're recording in? And then, of course, there is the clarity of your actual vocal performance. And I guess you could add in there any EQ or compression that you use. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to vocals, and the human voice is one of the most complex instruments. It is an instrument. It's got the same characteristics as an instrument that you can actually use. So what are some tips to get vocals sound as clear and professional? First of all, make sure that you've got a microphone, that you're not right up on the microphone. A lot of folks get too close to the microphone, that you haven't got the gain turned up. So however you set your gain, whether it's on your interface or your mic, make sure that's leveled down a little bit. The tendency is to turn it up, and turning it up will introduce a lot more background noise. Just make sure that it's at the right level. You're getting a good signal, but not too much. You're not going to clip and you're not going to get too much background noise. And then when it comes to the actual quality of the vocal recording, once it's in your software, then yeah, use compression, but use it lightly and gently. If there's a particular frequency that you're not liking, that you want to get more clarity with, you can use an EQ to bring that down, that particular frequency down, or boost it up if you need a little bit more cut through with your vocals. But yeah, I've done a few videos on mixing vocals, recording vocals, vocal tips. So again, if you go to the YouTube channel and search Pete Johns Vocals, you'll find a bunch of videos about recording and getting your best vocal sound. So I've been trying for ages to find a tubular bell sound on GarageBand, iPad. Can't find anything. Any ideas? No. Short answer is no. I don't think so. And I think I've had this question before, maybe not from you, my friend, but I've had this question from other folks before. There is a website that I tend to go to for these sort of things. And it really depends, because it depends whether you want like a loop sound or whether you want to have like a more of an actual instrument that you can use. But the website that I recommend is called freesound.org. There's a bunch of other different ones here, but I'm just searching over here for the words tubular bells. Let's see what we can find. We found a few here. So I'll show you what we got. If we bring up I'll just zoom on in, make sure there's nothing that you shouldn't see on my screen there. No, I think we're all clean. So if you go to freesound.org, you just need to log in. So it's just a free service. You log in there. You do have to check things over here. It'll tell you whether they're like Creative Commons sounds. So you need to work out. So this sounds public domain. So here you go. If we wanted the tubular bell of death, we can download and use this sample in our GarageBand project. Let's just preview it. I'm just going to turn my volume down and hit play in case it blows our heads off here. Something called the tubular bell of death sounds a bit disturbing, so sounds like something that Jade Starr would like to use in a track. Oh, there you go. You heard the end of it there. I just had turned the volume down, so let's play it again. Ooh, maybe not what you're looking for. But the good news is, if we go back to the search here, just searching tubular bells, look at this. There's a whole bunch. I mean, they're not all tubular bells. They're different sorts of bells. Let's just try this one, shall we? This loop. Oh, that's a very peaky kind of loop. Let's hit play on this one and check it out. Yeah. And here's the problem. Sometimes you get samples that have been recorded by someone like at too high a level. That one is obviously not going to be usable. But yeah, check out. There's a heap of other similar sites to this where you can download free samples, one-shot samples that you can use in the sampler in GarageBand or whatever application you're using, or even loops that you can then add to your project. So short answer, no, haven't found one in GarageBand, but go away and grab yourself one from one of those places. Sometimes I think I should have a green screen so that I can put like a desert island behind. Am I able to use, this is from Connor Hughes, hello Connor, am I able to use a normal SM58 mic when recording or just by a USB lead, So there are converters that will convert your XLR mic to USB. So there's one made by Blue called the Icicle that does that, which you can check out. Blue Icicle, ICICLE. Then you can get obviously an audio interface, but yeah, there's different types of converters. So if you don't want to use an audio interface or an iRig Pre, something like this is the iRig Pro IO we were talking about earlier in the show. There's an iRig Pre version of this that does exactly that, lets you plug in a regular mic and then has a USB or a lightning output at the other end. So depending what quality you want and how much you want to spend to get that done will depend on that. Yeah, if you pick up something like there's cheaper XLR to USB converters that you can pick up on eBay and Amazon. I haven't tried them a lot and I don't have a whole lot of experience with them. So yeah, your mileage is going to vary on those. So I would lean towards more the iRig Pre series, which is your preamp converters, or something like the Pro IO, or just an audio interface. Something like a Behringer UM2. It's only about a $40, $50 interface. And then you've got a full-fledged interface that you can use and plug all of your analog audio gear and convert it to digital. Why do I want to write music as opposed to just, play cover songs or do other people's music? It kind of just happened organically, to be honest. So when I first started playing with a band, the first thing you do is you try to play cover songs. We tried to play Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Green Day and Offspring and all of the bands, grunge bands of the 90s. And then after a while, we're like, we could sort of make our own songs that are along these lines. So then it turned into, here's a cool riff. Let's just sort of start jamming on that riff. And then it was like, we could add some lyrics to these songs. So, started doing some lyrics and started yelling and screaming some various lyrics of teenage angst. And that's really all that happened. And then I think I realized that, I could actually create this thing. And I think artists and writers and any sort of creative folks probably have the same experience where you go, I created something out of nothing. So I think that is, in terms of why I like to do it, what got me into it, I think it was as soon as I started writing songs and I wrote those first few songs, the concept that I could take a blank canvas, a blank slate, a blank piece of tape back in the day and create something that had never been done before that was completely unique and new and different, that was pretty cool. So at a very high level, that is probably what I what I would say. That's my main reason for writing music, and I still do it to this day. And I still get a bit of a buzz every time I get to that point where I'm like, this is done and it's finished. And that's why I recommend to you and you and you and you. That's why I recommend to you that you create, record, and release music. Finish it, share it, get it out there, because that's going to give you a really good sense of satisfaction, and it's going to give you an opportunity to get feedback from other folks that is going to help you make better music in the future. How did you get into music, and when did you start to take it seriously? So this is a really good question. I touched on it briefly last week, I think. How I got into music was started learning piano. Didn't really like it because of all the theory and all the work that I had to do there, and it wasn't really my bag. Sort of stopped that after a while. Played viola in primary school. I think told the story that I was voted the number one viola player in my school because I was the only viola player in my school. And it wasn't really until I was about 12 or 13 that I actually picked up my brother's guitar. My brother is 6, 7 years older than me, and he would start going out. So every time my brother would go to the pub, I would sneak into his room and grab his Stratocaster copy electric guitar and just teach myself guitar. And over the course of about a year, I learned to play guitar, and the rest, as they say, is history. Joined a band, a 3-piece punk grunge rock band that we got together. Started playing around the place, not seriously, not to the next level. We recorded a couple of demos, wanted to do things, but then you know what? You finish high school, everyone goes off and works and studies and does all the things. So that was sort of how I got into it. When did I start taking it seriously? Was about 4 years ago. So pretty much just after I started this channel. I basically was coming up to close to being 40. I was in my mid 30s, and I thought it's actually ridiculous that I'm not making music. It's so accessible. I've got a laptop. I could buy an interface, so I did, and I started recording. And then it was probably a year or two into that I was like, what's this GarageBand app that's on my iPad? I might give that a go. That looks like it might be a little bit easier. So I did. I grabbed GarageBand, and the rest is history. I realized that there weren't a heap of tutorials out there on GarageBand. So I thought, while I learn to create music, why don't I create tutorials and share them? Because there's got to be other dudes and dudettes just like me who want to get into music, don't know where to start. What should I do vocally if I have no closet or no car as far as a vocal booth? Good question. So recording vocals, we've talked about this in previous shows here on the channel. And again, I've got videos. If you search Pete Johns vocals, there'll be a bunch of different tips and videos about recording vocals. But my number one tip is to reduce the noise around you. So the two things that are going to make your vocals sound bad, and I know I say this in a non-treated reflective area, but this just happens to be the best place for me to record my streams, is to go into a smaller space. So the smallest room in your house, maybe not the toilet because it's not going to meet the second criteria, which is reflective surfaces. So what you don't want, the worst thing you can do is point directly at a wall at 90 degrees, because that is going to reflect a hard surface, a surface that's flat and hard is going to reflect back on you. So when I'm recording in this room, for instance, you'll notice behind me, there's a thick curtain and a couch there. So the best thing for me to do is kind of to sing into that space. So if I'm singing into that space, it's hitting that curtain, and because that curtain's rippled, it's kind of acts a bit like a makeshift. You've seen those, like the sound treatment that you have on walls. It acts a little bit like that. So because it's a ripple, because it's soft, it's reflecting off still, but it's soft, so it's not reflecting harshly, and it goes off in different directions. So that's the kind of key thing, is to, if you don't have a small room and you're stuck somewhere, and people have literally done this before. I've known people that have been in a hotel room and they can't find the right surface. So they get under the blankets in the bed and they record in there just to get that softness around them. Like, it might not be very comfortable for a long period of time, but if you really want to deaden the sound, if you really want to reduce the reflections and the noise, it's a pretty quiet place under the covers of your bed. So that's some ideas and tips that might help you out. It's been a wild ride here in Adelaide, South Australia. So what I went with is the base Mac Mini. So I went with the absolute bottom of the line Mac Mini. And the reason I did that was, A, I'm cheap and I didn't want to spend more than $1,000. And B, I thought it would be a good test, because yeah, if I went and tricked out and got 16 gigabyte of RAM and 2 gigabytes of storage and did all the things and got the MacBook Pro, that wouldn't be a really good real world test, because not everyone's going to go out and buy a MacBook Pro. So what I bought was, I'll show you what I bought. It is the new Mac Mini. If we come here, it looks like this. Ooh, Mac Mini, new guts. And it is my first ever Mac that I've owned. I've used Macs in workplaces and in schools and educational places, but I've never actually owned a Mac. So, yes, it will be a revolution for Pete. But yeah, this is the Mac Mini. And if we go to the buy, you'll see what I paid here in Australian dollar bucks. It's not as cheap. It's not $6.99. It's $1,099. So this is the one I'm going with. It's the M1 chip, the 8-core CPU and GPU, 256 gigabytes of storage, and the 8 gigabytes of unified memory. What's your favorite style of music? What's my favorite style of music? That's a really good question. I don't know. What's your favorite style of music? It depends on my mood, to be honest. It depends on if I'm in the mood for something that rocks. I like listening to 90s alternative grungy rockiness. So yesterday I stuck on a 90s Australian alternative station, and we had bands like Tumbleweed and Ammonia and Jebediah that many of you wouldn't actually know or have ever heard, but that's sort of what I like to listen to there. Regurgitator. But then Frenzal Rom. But then when I'm in a more mellow mood, I like to listen to acoustic, folksy, rocky music. So your Jack Johnson, your Ben Folds, your Whitlams, those sort of styles. A lot of Australian stuff actually. When I'm listening to music, it's mostly Australian. And then sometimes I want to rock out with more modern stuff. So the Killers, Muse. Who else do I like? Weezer. They're not that new, but they do have new stuff. So yeah, that's what I like. Benjamin says, my story is nearly identical to yours, Pete. If you start selling coffee mugs that say Pete Johns is my spirit animal, I'll buy one. Funnily enough, I was going to mention it here today, but I asked a question over on Create, Record, Release and also on the community tab here on YouTube, which is what 3-word phrase would you put on a t-shirt that best describes your approach to music? And my goodness, there were some fun answers on there. So if you're not a member of Create, Record, Release, or if you haven't checked out the community tab, if you're on a mobile device, just go to my channel and tap community. We do some poll questions and some fun questions there from time to time. It's always a good, fun time there. When I retire, which probably never going to happen, but when I stop making music, I think I'll just do an Ask Me Anything live every day. Yeah, how did you grow on YouTube? Almost by accident would be the thing. No, I've talked about this a few times, and it's a good segue. I'll use this as because how do you grow on things? You be a shameless self-promoter, don't you? So how did I grow on YouTube? It was about grinding it out and about, I don't know, people hate, the grind and the hustle culture and all that sort of thing. But it really is about slow and steady. There is no cheat hack, growth hack way to do things. And if you do some of the things that some people say you should do to do that, ends up backfiring usually. So it is about community. That's my number one tip on this. It's that social media, whatever social media you want to grow on, what a lot of folks forget is it's a two-way medium. So you need to be doing as much listening and reading of other people's content as creating your own. I think when folks come out of the gate, they come out super fast and they're like, create, recreate, create. And then the only time they're interacting is when they're trying to promote what they've created. The key to success I've seen from successful people that are creating YouTube channels, creating Instagram followings, TikTok, I don't care where you're at. Whatever it is, it's those who actually engage with their viewers through responding and answering comments, through listening to what people are saying, through taking on board suggestions, through checking out other people's content and joining communities, Facebook groups, forums, Reddit, whatever it is, whatever's in your particular area. So that's probably, whenever I'm asked this, that's my number one tip is, two-way communication, two-way open and honest communication. Don't be a DICK, so be good, be nice to people, and make sure that you're leveraging that two-way communication. Is there a recovery file somewhere? I was working on a project and did not save it, then it crashed. Does iOS GB autosave as you go along somewhere? You're probably telling by my tone and body language that no, it does not. So yeah, and I'm going to tell you this after the fact, and you're going to say, yeah, thanks, Pete, that's really helpful. Save often, save frequently, save all the time. Whenever you do a major change to your GarageBand project, not only save, but use version control. So to save in GarageBand, again, all you do is tap in the top left corner. That's going to close out. You know what I can do? I'm going to go super lo-fi here, and I'm just going to grab my iPad because I've got it in front of me here. So here's a song that I'm working on at the moment, right? I've got it going on here. I just need to tap in the top left. That's going to close it and save it. What I mean by version control is before I do any major changes to this project, I'm going to tap and hold on it until we get the wiggles. I'm going to hit duplicate and see how it's done that. It's put a 2 next to it. This is my recommendation when you're working on a project. About every I usually end up with about 10 versions. So about every 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your process and what you do, duplicate out your project, then work on that version, then duplicate, work on that version. It just means if you do something completely heinous, or you corrupt your project, or it fails to save, or something happens, then you're going to be covered. So that is something that I recommend that you keep in mind. No, it won't help you for the one that you've lost. Unfortunately, yeah, there is no autosave. It's not going to work, and I apologize for that. What's the biggest thing you did when recording on GarageBand that turned out to be a game changer? Oh, game-changing things in GarageBand. Yes, I'm trying to think back because it's hard. Once you get into the groove and the swing of it, it's hard to think about what was actually a game. I mean, getting my first Steinberg interface was a game changer, I think. That would have to be it. Like, I've been talking about Steinberg since I had my UR12, UR44, UR22C. Like, I've been in love with these interfaces, and the reason is they are just rock solid, and they work, and they give you a high quality, reliable sound every time. They get out of the way, and that's the thing. I think as Mobile Music Pro said before, you just want your hardware to get out of the way so you can get creating, yeah? And it's not a GarageBand specific thing, I guess, but having a good quality interface and a good quality microphone as well. So the ability to just record good quality audio, it just means you're not faffing about with something that's not going to be the best quality. You're just diving straight in and getting creative. So that's probably that. In terms of GarageBand, probably for vocals, making sure I have plenty of delay and reverb on my vocal when I'm recording it. And having the volume of my vocal up louder. So I used to record vocals and probably had the volume down too low, and I would not hit notes and I would not hear what I was singing. These days, I just crush it and turn my volume way up on vocals, and that has actually been a bit of a game changer. So again, not specifically GarageBand, but yeah, in GarageBand, using something like the lead vocals preset, when you're recording vocals, that has really helped me out. Now, you can ask me anything about home recording, mobile recording, audio, gear, life, the universe, everything. Coffee? Should you lay all the tracks down first and then record vocals? I tend to, but I don't. So it really depends on the track. So if I'm doing a singer-songwriter acoustic type track, what I'll generally do is lay down a guide acoustic guitar and a guide vocal. And they're usually my first 2 tracks, 1 and 2. I'll then go and re-record all of the instruments. So I'll then go and record all the instrumentation, the guitars, the drums, the keys, everything, and then record my actual finished vocals last. So I guess my answer to this for me is both, in that I always have a guide vocal at the start just to feel, because I tend to find you can't really place the instrumentation properly if you don't know where the vocals are going to go. Otherwise, you tend to over instrumentalize. Does that make sense? You tend to put too many things. You don't leave enough space for the vocal to sit in there. So that's what I would say is get a basic, whether it's keys or guitar or a beat, get something basic down, get a vocal take down, and then build out your instrumentation with that scratch vocal sitting there. Then you can re-record. And you know what? Sometimes your scratch vocal sounds so good, you just end up using it. I've definitely fallen into that a few times before. What is the best app for editing videos? Depends on the platform you're using. I use LumaFusion on my iPad and my iPhone, and that is what I use. If you've ever watched a video, apart from these live videos, if you've ever watched a video here on Studio Live today, in the last 3 years, it has been edited on LumaFusion. And I used to actually use, Adobe Premiere Pro, and I was paying the Adobe subscription, and then I realized that I'm paying $30 a month, and I use 2% of the Adobe product. I don't use Photoshop. I don't use much at all. And I switched over to LumaFusion on my then iPad. And then I'm like, hey, this is cool. I could actually do this on my iPhone. And I did. So this is LumaFusion here. And there's me recording, goodness knows what. I can't remember what that was. Oh, that was a demo that I did where I showed how to split out audio. But that's LumaFusion. And, you got 6 tracks of audio, 6 tracks of video. You got all the effects. You got all the editing and cutting tools. You got your audio there. You can bring in all your things. And because I shoot a lot on my phone, having everything in iOS. So here, for example, last night, I know I keep mentioning it, I will talk about it once we get through some questions, but last night I was at a gig, and here we go. I've got all of my things here. I've got all the video and all the photos that I took that I want to edit in together to a video that I can put here on the channel. and they're all here in iOS. So I just throw these straight into LumaFusion and start editing. There's no copying from SD cards. There's no messing about with Wi-Fi. It's on my phone. I stick it in LumaFusion and I edit it. So if you're in iOS, I would highly recommend LumaFusion. If you're on a Mac, iMovie is great and free. And if you're on a PC, probably I would go with, I always forget the name of it, DaVinci Resolve. It's a free platform and tends to work pretty well. I have two UR242 audio interfaces. Is there a way to link them up so I can have 4 inputs instead of 2? I'm in Cubase AI. The short answer is no. Some audio interfaces actually have the ability to link. They have a digital, like a fiber optic cable that you can link between two. Most of the time, if you just plug into audio interfaces, which are 2-channel input-output, they kind of work independently. And even if you can get them working, you can create like a composite device where it can link them both together. You can have issues with things like your timing and your latency and your MIDI clock and things like that. So it's not a direct no, you can't do it, but it in my experience, it creates more hassle than it's worth, if that makes sense. So you can try it, and there's guides out there. If you just put like multiple audio interfaces PC or multiple audio interfaces Mac, then you can find out. But I wouldn't spend too much time on it. In my experience, it doesn't work that well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to... Yeah, so why does GarageBand freeze sometimes when opening? So what we're talking about here is sometimes you'll hit the GarageBand. Sometimes I sound so old. Sometimes you'll hit the GarageBand button and nothing will happen. It's a jolly nightmare. So sometimes if we close it completely and reopen, so let's reopen GarageBand, you'll get this screen and then it won't go to there. It'll just sit on that black screen forever. Why does it do it? Usually it's to do with the fact that you've exited out of it, like you exited GarageBand, but you're still in a project. So the one way that I found to help avoid this is to always leave GarageBand on this screen. And then the other thing that you can do is to always just close out of GarageBand. So just flick it away, close out, and then open it fresh. Sometimes, especially when GarageBand sits in the background with a project open for a long period of time, that's when you get these issues. So if I just left that open and went away and worked my day and then came back and hit it again, that's when I tend to get that black screen more often than not. Now, there's an easy fix for this one. All you need to do is go into your settings again. You're spending a lot of time and say, whoop, what did I hit? Hit the wrong button. I'm going back into StreamYard. Let's close that. We don't want to go into StreamYard again. Go into your settings and down under GarageBand. So over on the left here, if we scroll down to our apps on the left, these are some handy features over here. Tap GarageBand, come over to the right, scroll on down, you'll notice that there's this button here, Reset GarageBand. So if you tap that one and then reopen GarageBand, it will basically reset all your parameters and it will go back to that welcome screen. Now it won't affect any of your projects, but you will need to come in here, and if you've got note labels or if you've got support MPE controllers, any of these settings that you've put on, you'll need to re-put those on. And the same with some of your advanced settings over here in GarageBand. You'll just need to go in, and the one you really want to make sure you do is come back into advanced and make sure 24-bit audio resolution is back on. And that's a tip for everyone. If you're a GarageBand iOS user, go right now. Grab your phone, grab your iPad, go right now. Don't worry, I'll wait. We'll be here when you get back. Go to it, go to GarageBand, tap your settings, hit advanced, and make sure you've got 24-bit audio resolution. You just might as well. Even if you don't have a 24-bit audio interface, it will just improve things. And then if and when you ever do record audio, you'll get it at 24-bit quality. The bit rate just means the quality. It's not really quality. It's more to do with the bandwidth that you're getting in there, the dynamic range, the quiets and the louds. 24-bit's just going to do that better than 16-bit. 16-bit's still good. That's CD quality after all. But 24-bit, if you've got it, why wouldn't you use it? Mark says, I forgot to add, I'm using GarageBand on the iPad at the moment. At the moment, the solo starts at bar 49. I've deleted everything before it, but want to move the solo. Yeah. So in that case, Mark, what you'd need to do is just grab all your stuff. So we'll come over here. Might have to make this our last question. So if you were doing something like that, so say you deleted all these. So say I wanted to bring all these, and instead of being here at bar 9, I wanted them all to be at bar 1. All you need to do is grab everything like this, do a big lasso loop over them, like every track, and then look what happens. If I grab these now and drag, they all shimmy across. So they'll all go over to track 1. So that's all you need to do to finish off that process. Mark, delete everything in front, grab all of your tracks, Just make sure that they're all selected and highlighted, and then drag across and you'll be good to go. I'll undo that because I'll confuse myself the next time I look at that. Whoa. Good morning. Clayton von Kluge says, question, is it worth to get an Apple laptop for doing anything a little more professional, or will iPads cover it pretty well? It's a really good question. And in fact, it's a good segue. I'm doing so much cross promotion here today, but I do want to mention this because yesterday I was on a video over on Mike Enjo, who has the Creative Source channel. It was myself, it was Ed Thorne, and Marlon from White Noise Studio. And we answered some of the big questions. So if you're not already subscribed, jump on over here, subscribe to Creative Source. Why am I not subscribed? I swear I was subscribed to your channel, Mike. I don't know how I'm not subscribed. Anyway, jump over to Creative Source and subscribe to that one, because one of the questions in that, I do have a point to all this, one of the questions in the big questions video that we had there was, what is better, Mac or PC? And of course, me being the cheeky bugger that I am, I held up my iPad and said, this is better. And for me, I think, for me and for my workflow, I love iOS, and that's no surprise. Yeah, I use my iPhone, I use my iPad. I love me some iOS because I just find the portability of it, and we've got to the point now where the audio quality is the same. I say this a lot. It comes down to your workflow. So whether you want a laptop, a desktop, or a portable tablet, or even a phone, is around your workflow. For some people, they will think the workflow of having to do things on their phone or tablet is annoying because they want a full-size keyboard, they want a mouse, they want a nice 30-inch monitor. That's cool. So it's more about how you actually create than the actual quality that you're actually getting out of it. So that's probably the first thing I'd say there, because remember, it's all ones and zeros. Once you plug in your audio interface, your microphones, your MIDI keyboards, your guitars, once they're actually plugged in, then it's all just recording. And if you get everything set at 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz, or 48K, or 96K, we did talk about that too. We talked about sampling rate last night. And yeah, the jury's still out on that, but yeah, you can tune in and find out what we had to say. But in terms of this, I think if you go a little more professional, it's not really the right language. I would say a little bit more flexible in terms of if you want to use a keyboard, mouse, and large screen, then yes, that's easier. But don't forget that we actually have the ability through the technology that we have these days. I mean, my iPad is there. Like, there's my iPad right here. It is on my large screen. It's sitting here on my 24-inch monitor, and I can use this through my Mac. And even if I wasn't using a Mac, I could plug it in via HDMI and just plug straight out from my iPad. So yeah, I think the one thing I have noticed about the Mac and having a Mac here is that the desktop environment is better for multitasking. So could I do this live stream using just iPhones and iPads? Maybe. Is it easier having dual monitors here on my webcam and all of the different apps that I can bring in and bring out? Yes. So for me, for workflow, for live streaming, a PC or a Mac is better. For music creation, however, I kind of like the freedom and flexibility of an iPhone or iPad. So I know that doesn't really answer the question. You're going to hear this a lot. A lot of it is it depends. Question from Nerf Planet. Nerf Planet, Captain Planet, he's our hero. No, anyway, that's a bit old school. Anyone remember Captain Planet? He's our hero. I hear he's going to take pollution down to zero. That's the word on the street. What does the follow button do on the drummer tracks? Let's have a look, shall we? So the drummer follow up option is actually super cool. What I'm going to do is we'll make another copy of this one so I don't mess around with my original project. And let's play around with drummer, because I reckon, did I use drummer on this track? No, I used actual drums. Down here. Jade Star probably played them. She plays drums on most of the songs that I do. So we're going to mute out these drums, and let's bring a drummer track in. So this is my song, Spy From a Distance. It's my most recently released song, and let's just take a listen. It's getting much harder. So here it is without any drums yet. So we've muted out our drums there. Let's add a drummer track, and we'll show you what the follow option does here, because it's actually super cool if you've never played with it. We're going to go to drummer. We'll add a drummer. Who's going to do our thing? I mean, Kyle's the obvious choice for everything, but maybe we'll go someone like Darcy. I don't use Darcy very much. This is more of a pop kind of song. So let's grab Darcy, and let's see what Darcy's going to do by default on this track. Right? Not bad. Now, if you haven't used Drummer before, you can come in here. There's a bunch of presets. You can tweak the percussion, the hi-hat, the kick and snare. You can turn on and off different kit pieces by tapping on them here, which is cool. You can tell it how many fills you want or don't want, and you can make it either simple or complex and soft or loud. So there's a bunch of options you have there, but you've noticed you got this little follow button down here, yeah? Pretty cool, because what we can do is if we turn that one on, we can now actually follow any of our other tracks. So see our kick and snare here at the moment says don't follow. If we tap on that, we can now choose a track for it to follow. Now, the best track for a drum to follow is usually a bass. So let's grab our bass track here. There you go. What it's going to do is going to go and build a profile of that bass track, and now it's going to have adjusted our drums so that the kick and snare actually follow the bass. Let's go back and take a listen to the bass just so that you can hear how this works in reality. So we'll turn this one on. So our bass is doing this kind of business, yeah? We'll turn that up just so we can hear it in the mix. Right, so there's your bass. Now, if we bring the drummer in to this business, take a listen to what Darcy's doing. Right? Hear how that kick, 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 kick. Now, of course, your bass is the most logical one too, but say you had your guitars. So this is one of our rhythm guitars here. So say we wanted it to actually sync up with this. So here that's going to have slightly different pattern, right? This is going to be a different pattern. So now we'll go back to Darcy and we'll go back to the drummer options here. And now with our follow option, instead of using this one, the bass, let's come up and use the sparkling clean. Now it's going to redo that. What it's doing, it's actually it's pretty cool. It's reading the profile of that waveform because it doesn't have to be a virtual instrument. As you saw, you can use virtual instruments or you can use these instruments. It's read that and it's ready to go. So let's take a listen now. Hear how there's a heap more kick drums in there? It's because every time I'm doing the do-do-do-doing, every time I'm doing those guitar picks, it's trying to add another kick drum to the guitar pick. So it doesn't sound as cool, yeah, because you generally want it to follow your bass. You can do it. The other cool thing is, even if you're using like virtual instruments, so those are actual recorded ones. So originally, I actually had this bass in here. Before I recorded the actual bass guitar, I just had a virtual instrument. So there was my original bass, and if we make Darcy follow that original bass, check it out. It's pretty cool. We'll come here, tap it. Liverpool. There you go. All right, Darcy, do your thing. Right? It's probably one of the most underused and misunderstood feature, but it's actually kind of one of the coolest features here in GarageBand.
It was right at the start of
the C word.
Yeah,
we call it the C word and the P word around here.
P word.
Probably didn't give you that up front, but yeah.
Did not.
For Georgie, will you be willing to sing on a song that I've made? She won't even sing on my songs.
I really like singing. I don't think I do it super well. And that's not me being self-deprecating, like I'm not the sort of person that gets embarrassed easily. What's the word that I'm realistic about my abilities. So the answer is maybe if you want bad vocals.
Maybe Georgie should do because you might have heard my song that I've been singing constantly for the last 10 days, my song Timber Song. I'm sure you've heard it a few times because we are all just a work in progress. Russ asked, what would you do if GarageBand was shut down by Apple tomorrow? What would you do with Pete? What would you do with me if Apple just said there's no more GarageBand and I couldn't make videos?
I'd make him go back to an office job. Because A, we need money, and B, he'd be moping around the house like some sort of sad sack. When he left his corporate gig, because for a while there it was, it was pretty draining. He was doing a job that he didn't really like, as well as doing this channel that he really did like. So when he left the corporate gig, for weeks he would walk around the house going, just with this contented sigh every now and again, which was delightful. And I said to him, you better bloody make money doing that. No, I didn't say that. So I would probably have to send him back to work.
Semi-serious question for Pete or Georgie. Can I see your dog? So I mean, he's over there.
He's hiding. Do you want to go get him?
Do you want me to go and get him?
Go on.
While you, all right, I'll go get Basil, and you can help explain to Adam what I used to do because Adam was kind to donate. What did I do before Studio Live today? See my book.
Oh, well, you've had the channel for a while now. He's had it for about, I'd say 5 years, but he worked for an energy company here in Australia called AGL, and he was a sales and marketing manager. Here's Basil. He got groomed yesterday, so he's not normally this.
He looks like a rat now.
Yeah, he's not normally this rat-like, but yes.
There he is.
There's
Little dude.
Basil. So yesterday he was much fluffier, and then I took him to the groomer, and now he looks like, he's an old man too, but he looks like a puppy. We think he's about 10. He's a rescue, so we're not really sure how old he is. Yes, and he does make old man noises. He makes this funny little grunt.
Well,
All right.
do I have to tell him to keep the noise down?
We have a lot of doors. So in between this room and the lounge area, there's this door, and then there's the bathroom door, and then there's a hallway door. So not often. We did feel a bit bad when the neighbours next door were having open inspections, and right on the time where he normally does his happy hour. So I think he's so considerate. He changed his happy hour time to suit the neighbours' open inspection because he didn't want, them thinking that they lived next door to some larrikin who was
and now they're here, and now I can make all the noise, and we've lulled them into a false sense of security.
And they seem like nice people, which is fine.
They do.
Yes.
Do you ever give helpful criticism to Pete on his music?
All criticism I give to Pete is helpful, actually. Thank you for asking, Jenny. No, he knows way more about it than I do. Sometimes, I tell a lie. Sometimes I will offer my advice and he will usually take it because I don't say I have an ear for it, but I can hear when something is not quite right. I always tell him, what do I always tell you? You mix your vocals too loud. I always say to him, he mixes his vocals too loud.
But what we've worked out though is that I mix my vocals too loud for the sort of music that she likes. So because we like a lot of like 90s and 2000s grunge and alt rock, they mix their vocals a lot lower. If you listen to a lot of modern pop, they mix the vocals louder. So I take great pride whenever we're listening to like pop music on the radio and the vocals are loud. I'm like, see, Billie Eilish mixes her vocals too loud as well.
And I have to admit, Billie Eilish is a bit of a legend. And underrated artist, I know I'm going out on a limb here, Taylor Swift.
We're live in 5, 4, 3. Did you know that I do this, but we're actually already live?
Yeah, why?
Amy Park or Adelaide Oval. Well, Amy Park, which was football park, is now basically going to be about to be redeveloped for housing, isn't it?
I'm just going to pour myself another drink.
Yeah,
I think they're about to redevelop it. Adelaide Oval's been made up to be a lot more...
big stadium style.
Yeah, what's the word that you can do lots of things?
A multi-purpose venue.
Yes. So they have, when I saw Adele.
Hello?
Yes. I got a free ticket to Adele because my sister-in-law Pete's sister, had a spare ticket. So I went to Adele. I saw U2, again, free ticket from a friend. So I saw U2 at Adelaide Oval. But then I also go and see... what we call football, which is the Australian rules football, the AFL. We watch the cricket.
I'm there.
Pete's
all
there a lot.
Season for the cricket. Is there a favourite song you two like to sing together? And would you sing it now?
We used to sing a lot. And actually, this is one thing that your channel has changed. Back in the day, and before children and even after children, we used to play a lot of SingStar on the PlayStation. So on a Saturday night, especially after children, put the kids to bed and, rock out to some, I don't know, what songs were on SingStar back in the day. There was Grinspoon and Killers. Yeah,
Powderfinger.
And now I say to him, do you want to play SingStar on a Friday or Saturday night? And he's like, no. Have to save my voice for the show.
My voice for my happy. I know it's.
But what were some of our favourite ones?
So in terms of sing together, the one that comes to mind is the Kylie Minogue Robbie Williams song called The Kids. So if you were to say Me No Bubblicious and
Me Smoke Heavy Tar, no, that's the wrong way around. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was you
want me to
go and see if you can sing the first
I
line.
don't. Me no bubblicious.
Me smoke heavy tar.
Me be grooving slowly where you are.
Don't just
Notify your
notify your next of kin, cause I'm never coming back.
Well, I've been dropping beats since back in
Here's the
black.
harmony.
And we'll paint by numbers till something sticks. I don't mind doing it for the kids. Oh, that's probably enough, isn't it?
That's probably not good enough. And there you have it. Nothing like a little bit of nostalgia and looking back in time at some of those cringeworthy moments as well. Thanks for watching this one. Once again, if you want to make sure that you don't miss any future videos, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button on your way out, and I'll see ya next time.